And just like that, we are past the halfway point of reviewing, recapping, reanalyzing the original OG Sex in the City. Yes, we are in episode 8, Three's a Crowd. And boy, is it really. So since we're in episode 8, there's only 12 episodes to this season, which is going to be great because I'm going to be able to get through this at least by the end of next week, hopefully, or just a touch of the week after. And then we're going to get into season 2, 1999. We're going to party like it's 1999. Okay. So let's get quickly into this episode. I just want to give my personal thank you again to everyone because sometimes people don't stay into the end of the video, and I do understand that. But for all those who are coming into this and have been true watching and going through it and commenting and engaging and listening, mwah, thank you, everyone. Let's hope that we can bring a lot more success to this series because we're going to keep rising up, 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 and we're going to go through this. And I cannot appreciate all of you guys who are actually watching, subscribing, going through it. I hope that you guys are excited because this has been one of the most fun adventures I've had in a very long time in YouTube. And I want to hope, I want to hope, let's try to talk English, take 1. I hope I'm bringing as much fun to it for you watching it as I am doing it for you. So next up, we're going to start with the scene opening of Three's a Crowd. And this is where I told you, just forewarned, remember everything that I said about Charlotte, because this, I don't know who that clone was in this episode, but I got some thoughts. So stay tuned. Scene opens. Carrie's narration. Guess what? Charlotte has a new man. Shocking. And she locked eyes with this new man at one of her charity events or a charity event. And she was in love. So much so that she chased him around to many different other chariot events just to get a hold of her man, which is a lot more sensible than the wording of Carrie and Big constantly bumping into each other in New York, like as if that ever really happens. It makes more sense that someone is chasing after you and purposely bumping into you versus the narrative that we tried to believe about Big and Carrie when they were not dating and they were bumping into each other. So I respected that. So finally, after the last charity event, she finally got her man. And guess what? In the narration of Carrie, he was perfect. Didn't we just go through that with Dog Man, BJ Man? But no, this is even more perfect. If you could believe it. Not. So as they're actually narrating the fact that he is an architect and he's a philanthropist and I think his name is Ted and he's perfect for her. I'm like, oh my God, if I had $1 for every single time I heard this about Charlotte, I would be as rich as SJP right now. Seriously. So the next scene you have with Charlotte is that she's in bed with him and he's asking her, what are her fantasies? Now, very innocent question from an innocent point of view of Charlotte. And she spits out that she would love to own her own gallery and a little house in Maine. I found that odd. I'm like, Maine? Seems a little off, but okay, we'll go with that. And then he says, no. I'm talking about your sexual fantasies. I'm talking about like having sex in an airplane bathroom. Not exactly my choice, but we'll go with that. And she says, oh my God. And I swear to God, I was like, Charlotte, isn't this when you start to run? But no, none of that happens in this episode. We're going to have to start using metaphors to cover some of the things that have been happening in the next few episodes as well. So y'all are going to have to guess my metaphors. So she says, oh, I would love to do it one day in my parents' bed. Why? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing it in our parents' bed? Why is this a fantasy of anybody? To me, that's not a fantasy. That's like, ew. Maybe you guys have it and forgive me if you do feel that way, but that doesn't seem sexy. He's like, well, my fantasy is me, you, and another woman. Again, Charlotte didn't jump out of the bed. And she's like, oh my God, stop it. I'm like, oh my God, stop it. And he's like, the thought of you touching another woman has got me crazy right now. And she is happy. She likes it. She didn't jump out of him. She jumped on top of him. Where's Charlotte and where? Where's Charlotte? Does anybody know? I think we lost her somewhere. And this is not the first time she does something crazy. This is just when I started noticing. I'm like, what? So the next thing you have is, of course, my favorite. The girls are in the cafe and they're having, I don't know, food. Let's say brunch. And Charlotte spits out, oh, Ted wants me to have a threesome. And everybody looks up. Oh, that's not the reaction I would give my friends, but let's go with it. And Miranda says, of course he does. He's a guy. Sounds right. I like that. Yeah. Samantha, ever educational, instruction giving person that she is when it comes to these topics. She says that threesomes are the new BJs of the 90s. Charlotte asks, well, what was the BJs of the 80s then? She says, no, it was anal sex. Now, I might come from a different thought pattern, but I don't remember any of this, and I may have to rethink my entire sexual past. I think I missed something. Okay, I missed a lot. This was educational to me too. Then, even now, I'm like, really? Where do you get these? Is this like in a Wiki? Not even, because it wasn't even the internet back then. Is there a library that has this? Because it's fascinating how much information she has on this stuff. And this goes into Miranda's speech about don't do it because they just want to have you look like a lesbian for one night. Yeah, you know. And that don't be convinced to do something like this. And Samantha, ever the instructional education, don't, fall asleep on that. And it could be fun. And Carrie is like, well, I've never done a threesome. And that's because she's never been in a relationship. She has relationships. And Samantha's like, well, the reason why I have great sex is because I don't have relationships. Got it. So what she does tell Charlotte is that make sure that you do not have it with someone that you know. Make sure it's a stranger, like someone you meet at a bar. Charlotte is like, no, I want someone I can trust. I'm like, oh boy, where's this going? Someone like Carrie. Carrie's like, oh no, sweetheart, thank you. And I'm thinking she's gonna say that's not my thing. No, I'd rather do it with someone with experience like Samantha. I'm like, Again, conversations I don't have with my girlfriends, but it was interesting to hear. And Samantha's like, oh, sweetie, I think that a newbie like Charlotte will be very interesting. And they all picked each other except for one person, Miranda. And Miranda's like, well, hello. And they all realized that they didn't pick her as a choice to be sleeping with her. And she's like, I don't know. I would sleep with any of you. I'm like, what? As my friends are looking at me, I'm like, don't even go there with me. Not an option. Okay? And we all laughed and we're like, okay, so we're all on the same page, right? You, me, we're like, well, this is not a conversation. We've had different conversations. Like, who would we murder first if we were on a deserted island to eat? Simple questions. Or the one that I like, who would we call to hide a dead body if we were ever in that situation? The one that I was picked the most was, who would you call to spy on your boyfriend, to go spying on your boyfriend to see if he's cheating on you? I don't know why. I don't know why this face resembles somebody that can be incognito and, develop a plan to go spy on their boyfriends or husbands, which ironically has happened. And I was very successful. But that was the one that I was picked. But but for Miranda, she felt offended because she felt like this was dodgeball all over again, and everybody was picking teams. I'm like, I don't think that's the point of dodgeball. You're asking to go down on your friends. I think that's a little bit off the beaten track. So, tell me, have you ever done this with your friends and actually had conversations about who would you, who would you, who would you, who would you, who would you know? Let me know in the comments below. Next up, why threesomes are so popular. Stay tuned. The next scene, and I separated it because it's part of the reason why I like the writing of the show, because they always tie in some sort of narrative that Carrie is going to write, whether it's she's on her laptop, it's going to be her next thing in the star, whatever the hell it's called, column. So Carrie's in her apartment and she's writing, maybe, threesomes is the new frontier. And then they go into this montage of all of the threesomes that she starts to notice as she starts to think about it, which is what I really enjoyed because they kind of tie everything together. So they go into this, montage of people on a bike in threes. You have men who are very much into threesomes, and you have the old man with the two women. And then you have the, the ducks in the pond. I believe I missed somebody in between. Oh, a guy walking a dog, and then the ducks in the pond. And then she's narrating all this as she's noticing this. It's like one of those things like you kind of notice when, let's say you buy a car, a certain color, and you don't really think about it until you buy that color. And then all of a sudden, all of the cars that you see everywhere are that color. I don't know. It's like maybe a trick of the mind or something like that. But I do realize that sometimes, like if I'm not thinking about something and then all of a sudden I either decide to go with it or I decide to notice it, then everybody has a red car. Everybody has a white car. And it's very fascinating how that actually happens in your mind. So I enjoyed that because those are little nuances that I appreciate from the writing and the visual, and that's why I bring these visuals to you and I try to change my background and I try to immerse you in the situation. I think those little things really touch the special parts of a show. It can't be just all talking. It's like, how do you tie everything together? And I miss that. And I know we all miss that because in Just Like That, we didn't get anything. We just got really bad outfits, no storylines, or storylines that went nowhere. Let's not go into that, right? Sex in the City. We'll do that in the epilogue. So after she realizes all the threesomes, she's thinking in her mind, maybe we're not meant to be just with one person. I mean, it's debatable. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in that. I think every person is their own individual. And whatever works for you, whether it's, being in a polyamorous relationship, a threesome or, swinging or whatever the hell it is that is good for you and your relationship, whatever it may be, and it doesn't do harm to anyone else and you are both in agreement, then it is what it is. I'm not here to judge you. That's not my thing. It's just, I can tell you for me that if anyone that I ever dated had asked me to do something like that, I would be in the news and not in a good way. It's just something that I don't want to do. And I found it very interesting considering that Charlotte has pretty much been, except for the sex with the rabbi, which I'm not going to cite her on that because we've all done something crazy. Once, twice, maybe 3 times a lady times. Who knows? No judgment. No confessions here. But this was a little extreme. So the next thing you have is something I didn't like about Samantha, just as an overhaul kind of aesthetic of her personality. She's in bed with what Carrie narrates is Samantha, sex, and the married guy. So the guy that she's with is married. And let's start off with the fact that he's married. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how I feel about this right now. I don't like that. I don't like when you knowingly know that you're with a married man, that's your choice, that you're going to have sex with them. It's like, you know what? We have enough competition amongst ourselves as women. There's just certain taboos you just don't deal with. And out of everything that Samantha has done throughout the course of the entire series, that this type of thing that she does with married men really bothered me. And at that time, I wasn't married, and I had married friends or men friends with relationships. It was one of those uncomfortable scenarios that we're sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not me, because you have to have a certain level of not just trust within your friend group, but also just an overall person. So as she is in bed with him, he's talking about his wife that she wouldn't even do half the things that Samantha was doing with him in bed. I'm like, Samantha, with all the men that are in this world, in the tri-state area. Really? That's what you want to pick? Him? Who's talking about his ex-wife to you? You this is beyond sexual addiction. It was just I didn't like it. Though it turns out to be funny in her arc, but at the end of the day, it wasn't something that I gravitated to for Samantha. Like, I'm okay with all her sexual escapades and all her, instructional commentaries about how to deal with certain things, threesomes, butt girl, all the other stuff. Great. But if one of my friends was like that and they were dating or sleeping with a married man and they were in my friend group, I can tell you right now, we wouldn't be friends. Because where's the trust? Like, if you're going to do it with somebody like that, then you're just willing to do it with anybody. I'm sorry. And I'm saying people who knowingly know that they're married, regardless of the situation, regardless if they claim that they're going to leave their wives and they're going to, they're unhappily married, just steer away. Steer away. Because that's not the type of man that you want in your life. I'm sorry, but if he does it to his wife, he's going to do it to you. It's just common knowledge. But with Samantha, it doesn't matter to her, right? Because she doesn't care. She's not going to be in a relationship. So to her, it's like laissez-faire. I hope I'm saying that right. Somebody will tell me in the comments. Okay. Now we get into the next scene. Charlotte and the clone. Because that's how I think Charlotte is right now. She's a clone. They do. Charlotte and the Three's a Crowd clone. Next scene you have is Charlotte is walking into a bar with her mans, and his name is Jack. I think I said his name was Ted, but I remembered his name is Jack. And they're sitting at the bar, and he's asking, first of all, he's scouting the bar, and he goes, what about that girl? Do you think she's hot? And Charlotte's like, oh, stop it. I'm like, really? Stop it. And he's like, okay, maybe not that one. Then he turns around to the one behind him. What about that girl? What do you think about her? And she's like, ah. And then this woman, random woman, comes up and asks Charlotte if she has a light and with a cigarette in her hand. And Charlotte's like, I don't smoke. And she goes, that's a shame. She looks at Charlotte. She looks at Jack. I don't know who she's flirting with. She walks away and Jack starts to love bomb her. Oh my God, did you see her? She was totally into you. Oh my God. And she's like, no, I think she was into you. And I'm like, I don't care what she was doing. Something's not right about this. And he continuously talks to her. Charlotte, you don't know how beautiful and sexual you are. She'll be crazy not to be into you. And I'm like, I literally don't know how Charlotte put up with this. Contrary to every other episode before this. Okay? And Charlotte's just looking at him as he's just feeding into whatever he found her weakness. I didn't know this was a weakness, but apparently it is. And she's like, she did put her arm, her leg, what? She did touch my leg. I'm like, no. And he's like, should I ask her to join us? And then Charlotte just looks at him and there's no answer. Because the next scene you have is that she's walking into her bedroom and she sees Jack and Cigarette Girl on her bed and she walks towards them and I'm having a heart attack at this point. I'm like, no, she didn't. No, she didn't. And she starts to disrobe and he reaches out for her to come into bed to join them. And then all of a sudden you hear an alarm clock going off. And then she wakes up smiling because she had a sexual fantasy about doing a threesome. And I'm like, okay, hold up. Now I got to say something. So I want to be clear. This is Charlotte, who in prior episodes, she, number one, didn't want to be known as the up the butt girl. Got it. She wanted to have simple, clean sex with the up the butt guy on 300 thread count Egyptian sheets. She didn't want to give a BJ to BJ Boy and his dog in front of him because she didn't like that and gags on the thought of it. All of a sudden, the hill she's going to die on is a threesome? I need a roadmap, Charlotte. I need to know, how did you think this was going to work out? What is happening here? You realize that you have to do some sort of sexual act in a threesome, right? How is this going to work? How is that this particular scenario is the one that you got off on? Contrary to everything that we were told about her before this, I had no clue what was going on here. I was like, well, I did say she needed to go out of her comfort zone. I didn't realize that I had inadvertently said that she should just go out and taste the rainbow like a bag of Skittles. Because this was just completely different and not what I expected at all from Charlotte. Completely. Miranda? Sure, I could see that. Carrie? I don't really see that. Samantha? She would be leading the pack. Let's get real. She would have the instruction manual. She would have the positions already quoted out, and she would know exactly where and how to do each scenario. So that's my expectation. But Charlotte? Where are we going with this? I feel like the writers at this point were trying to expand Charlotte into the group because, as I noticed in the beginning and the first few episodes, Charlotte was sort of around. But once they really touched into her having sex with the rabbi, it really started to escalate from there. And I feel like they put her in different scenarios to see what fit. And I can tell you that if they were going to go with not being the up the butt girl, not being the I don't like to give BJs, to all of a sudden being in a threesome, whether it's a threesome with two guys, a threesome with a girl, it doesn't matter. Three's a crowd. Did anybody see this? What did you feel about this? So next up, we have Miranda and what I'm going to call her psychosis. Because she's really going deep into the fact that she does not get picked to experience with her friends. They do. Miranda and her very costly therapy bill to discover why her friends don't want to sleep with her is how I'm going to view this. She is with a therapist or a therapist. I didn't know she had one at that point. And he's asking, what do you think your dreams mean? And Samantha, God bless her. This is why I say I automatically gravitate to Samantha. And now Miranda's answer is like, please, I'm in the sandbox and none of the girls want to play with me. It's classic. So if it's classic, what the hell are you doing in therapy? And he's like, okay, so what you're saying is that you are attracted to your friends. And Miranda's like, no, but I'm attractive. I don't see why people wouldn't want to have a threesome with me. And he's like, sure. And she goes on to say, if your friends don't want to go down on you, then who will? Anybody else? I don't look at my friends as, well, if you don't go down on me, then I'm dead. I could be wrong. Do you think the same? If your friends won't do what others would that make you automatically unplayable in the sandbox? Help me. Help me. This was so, you know what's even stranger? My friends are there. My girlfriends, my tight girlfriends. And we're all just, this is probably the only episode that they shut the hell up because they knew it was coming. But even they didn't know how to react to this. And they were not looking at me at this time. They were just, how do you react to this? I'm like, I don't know. You're the ones who made me buy HBO to watch the show. Y'all need to do some explaining. This time, I don't need to explain nothing. Y'all need to explain to me. Is this what you guys think, ladies? No. But It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. I just don't automatically gravitate to thinking that way. Again, this is why the show is popular. It does bring up conversations that we normally wouldn't have, but this is not one of them. But I appreciated it. I don't know why. It's very odd. It was good. So the next scene we have is with Charlotte and with Carrie walking down one of the streets, New York, again, the fifth lady of the show. And Charlotte is letting her know that, Jack wants to, go forward with the threesome. And no, she's telling her about her dream. And Carrie's like, well, dreams are very good for you. They're very healthy. And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like buying a dress and then keeping the labels on, because no matter what happens, everything relates to fashion in Carrie's world. And Charlotte is telling her that, Jack thinks that I have a fire inside of me, that we should do it. And Carrie's expression is, listen, Charlotte says, I feel like I can get closer to him. I don't think that that's exactly the way a threesome is. How could you get close to someone when there's someone else in the bed? But let's not get into semantics about this, right? Because Carrie's advice is like, honey, don't you think it's kind of strange that you think that you can get closer to Jack by sleeping with someone else? And then Charlotte's like, but how well do you really know someone? I what? I think that I would know them a lot more in a way that I don't want to know them if they're insisting that I do a threesome. Isn't that the opposite of getting closer to someone? Am I crazy? Is it me? Am I crazy? Now, if you have had this done and you did get closer to your partner and you want to share that with me, you're going to have to explain. Sorry, no one-liners for you. If you're going to put yourself out there in my community, you're going to need a paragraph, because I need to understand this. Okay? School me. You be my Samantha. Talk to me. Let me know what's going on. Now, one of the things that Carrie is narrating after she made that comment about how well do you really know someone says, see, that's the thing about Charlotte. You might write her off as a Park Avenue Pollyanna, which is where I believe is the first time we actually hear the coining of the phrase of Charlotte being the Park Avenue Pollyanna, which is something that I didn't remember when we were watching, and just like that. So it was very interesting. I caught that. And then, once you write her off as a Park Avenue Pollyanna, she'll turn around and say something so intelligent that you would think that she's the Dalai Lama. I'm like, sure. She's still trying to convince herself to do a threesome, but let's go with Dalai Lama. Then Charlotte turns around and she asks her, do you think my hair is too shiny today? What? And then Carrie's like, and then she'll go off and say something like that. I'm like, wow, was Charlotte always this ditzy? And I say that word specifically because that's a really ditzy comment. Not because she's blonde or like that's really out there in La La Land, and I kind of remember Charlotte being variations of different people. Some of it I didn't like. A lot of it I didn't like at all, and just like that. But yeah, I can understand why Carrie was narrating that. And it was just something off the cuff. And it's like they made her seem as if she was like, all of a sudden has these brilliant ideas, and then all of a sudden she's, is my hair too tiny? Shiny. Okay. Next up, we get the answer to the question, who really answers these ads for threesomes? And nothing. Stay tuned. And when you get a chance, subscribe. So if you ever wondered who answered these types of threesome ads, well, wonder no more, because we get to see who does. So after her walk with Charlotte and her shiny hair, Carrie goes on a mission to figure out who would answer these ads. And she picks up from one of the newspaper stands that I I'm telling you, I don't remember seeing anymore. And it's the Village Voice. I remember the Village Voice. I don't know if it's still in publication, but that was one hell of a publication newspaper. I remember that distinctively. So it was really great to see that throwback, and I really appreciate it until she started asking questions. She asked the question, specifically, she picks up the Village Voice because I presume that's where most of these questions would be answered. And that if Charlotte is considering to do this, go forward with a threesome, who would actually answer these ads? So she opens up, and all of a sudden we get the montage, which I enjoy because it brings hilarity to this whole situation. We get this guy, a Wall Street honcho, who wants two horny gal pals for an East Hampton sex fest. No fatties, please. Yeah, okay. So that's every guy ever. It is. Yes, it could be, targeted to Wall Street guys, but sure. Then we get this one. She narrates that she is a sweet suburban teacher who is looking for some fun. You be black or white. I be on time. And that I need you inside of me. How they got her to say that with a straight face, I don't know. But I'm telling you this much. I will never look at a suburban teacher ever the same again. Then we get these two. We're going to call them the X-File fanatics, twosome, who are looking for a Scully lookalike for a X-File threesome fantasy. I never watch X-Files. I don't think they all acted that way. I'm just saying. And I'm a sci fanatic. I say out loud. And I'm scared. Then we get this one, who rattles off that she's big boobed and she's looking for a couple, clean and adventurous, to go around New York with all that it has to offer, museums, all the stuff. And I'm like, okay. And that she is into BJs and golden showers. Well, now we have the answer to everyone's question of the type of people that would answer an ad for threesomes, specifically in the Village Voice. What the hell? And I'm being sarcastic, but I am laughing my ass off because that's part of the reason why you don't, answer ads. Next scene, we have Carrie, who is narrating that now she's doing sleepovers with Big, and she's sitting in the chair in his beige room, in his beige apartment, which I say that because he had an issue with his second wife about her everything in beige. And I kind of noticed that he always had almost beige in his apartment. And as she's narrating, Big comes in and asks which tie, a yellow one, like Big Bird, and then another one. And she picks the yellow bird tie, and she's putting it around him to tie the tie. And he's looking at her. I can get used to this. No, you can't. You're a whore. And she's like, oh, she's saying to herself in the narration, I don't know why guys get turned on. Well, it's funny because the reason why I started even knowing what YouTube was about, because I had no clue how to tie a tie. And my son had his graduation and I had to figure out how to tie a tie. And YouTube came up explaining to me how to tie it. And I'm like, what is this YouTube thing? What is this newfangled thing? So I just found that throwback. I was like, yeah, I remember those days, but I never learned how to tie a tie. So, not for my dad. So, as she is, tying the tie, he asks, what are you doing? I can get an hour off for lunch if you want to meet up. And she's like, no, I have to do some research for my new column. And he's like, what is it about? And she goes, threesomes. Have you ever had one? And then he goes, yeah, sure. Who hasn't? Hi, me. Hello. 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 what is this? Is this like, what? And she's like, oh, really? With who? And he goes, my ex-wife. And she literally chokes the tie on him because I wasn't expecting that either. And this is before the time of Google. So you don't have all your private information on the internets. So I gave them credit for that. And she's like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, I thought I told you I was married. And she goes, oh, no. And I'm like, no. Does this surprise me? No. This is big we're talking about. Does this come back and bite him? Oh, yeah, of course it does. Then the next scene you have is coming up because Miranda is assisting. She's just insisting. I give her credit. She doesn't. She's persistent. Oh boy, let's get into this. So the next thing we have is that the three ladies, Samantha, Miranda, and Carrie, are testing makeup, don't know where. And they're speaking, and, Carrie's expressing to the girls that, Big used to have wild sex, and they don't have wild sex anymore. They have sweet sex. I don't know what that means. Okay. I know what it means, but you know what I'm talking about. For real? And she feels that it could be over between them because they don't have wild sex anymore. They only have sweet sex. Got it. So then Samantha is expressing to the girls, well, that's why Ken sleeps with me because his wife wouldn't even give him a BJ. We're back to the BJ conversation. And Miranda interjects by saying, you know that he's never going to leave her. And Samantha's like, yeah, I know that. And that's why I'm doing it because it's no fuss, no muss. And again, I go back to Miranda, really? Do you know who you're talking to? Talking to Samantha. This is exactly why she's doing this. So I didn't understand that line, but sure, we'll go with that. And as, they're trying to speak to each other, Miranda puts on lipstick and she goes, do you like this color on me? And Carrie narrates, well, we have to give it to Miranda. She is ever persistent. She's trying to engage the girls to make them want to choose her in the sandbox. So Carrie kind of deflates her box and says, honey, it's too orange. Poor Miranda. She's never going to get what she wants to be played with in the sandbox. Metaphors, metaphors, metaphors. So one of the important things that came out of this conversation is that Miranda says, well, you know what you got to do next, right? And both Samantha and her said, well, Carrie's like, what? And they both said to her, you got to check out the ex. Okay. The next thing you have is that Carrie's narrating and she figured out who the ex was. She found out and she's going to her office because she wants to get a meet and greet and meet her in person. And I go back to, didn't we do this again with Natasha? How is it that Carrie, no matter what scenario she's in, she's always doing some investigating reporting? AKA stalking. Which, by the way, I think my friends lean towards me when they pick me in the sandbox to do exactly what I just said. I would say scratch that, but okay. So she's waiting in the foyer, or not the foyer, but the office. Excuse me, still under the weather. So forgive me. And she's narrating that her plan was to meet up with this woman, her name is Barbara, and that she's going to pitch to her a bodice paperback novel. Got it. So the assistant comes out and says, Barbara's waiting for you. And she walks in, and Barbara's very pretty. I know this actress. I cannot remember for the life of me where I know her from, but I remember her from somewhere. So she introduces her, and Carrie's like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. Well, she is. She sits down, and the Barbara asks her, okay, I'm a big fan of your work. Here we go again with the big fan of your work crap. What is your pitch? What kind of children's book do you want to pitch me? And I guess Carrie didn't realize that she was into children's book. So she's thinking to herself, as narration happens, that, well, there goes her bodice paper book idea. So she had to literally pull a story out of her ass. So as she's pulling the story out of her ass, she looks towards her purse and she sees her cigarettes, because that's what you do when you pull a story out of your ass. Because what she tells her is that her vision for a children's book is Kathy and her magic cigarettes. Out of everything in that whole room, that's what you're going to go with? And of course, Barbara's like, you want to pitch a children's story with cigarettes? I'm like, yes. Hello. Have you met Carrie? This is what she does. And Carrie's going on, no, it's not just magic cigarettes. So she lights up the cigarettes and that she gets transported to anywhere around the world, Saudi Arabia or Jersey, because that's around the world. What? And Barbara's still like, what? And I'm like, whoa. And she's like, is this proper for a children's book? And I'm like, no, it's not. Say something. Say something. And she goes, Carrie, no. This is a children's book for adults. You want me to repeat that? This is a children's book for adults. What adult is reading a child's book? Actively. For themselves. Barbara, I don't know the reaction. It was valid, but she's like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I think it's amazing. I've been dying for something edgy like this. Have you? Were you? Are you serious? Are you just placating her? I hope that I have to presume that she was. Because how do you tell someone, crazy town, that none of this is going to work? Get the hell out. So I gave her a lot of respect that I know in my mind, in my head, that she is already thinking, yeah, I think the cigarettes have gotten to your head. So as Carrie is narrating, she goes, oh my God. She's telling her, oh my gosh, she got me. And, she's like, yes, I do. And in Carrie's mind, she goes, oh my God, she got me. Now I have to kill her. Are you the one going to kill her? Shouldn't she be killing you? Do you hear yourself? Magic cigarettes. I don't even know how they got through this line. This is hilarious. In a very, 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 very unrealistic way. I go back to some of the storylines in this show really out there. Almost like the couple of the X-Files. Those two. Next. Samantha and her married lover. Oh my God. This, out of everything that happened in this entire show, was my favorite scene. My favorite scene. Because like I told you, I don't know how they do it, but they put Samantha in these awkward situations and somehow she makes it funny. Stay tuned. Subscribe. So after Carrie has successfully pitched an idea to have children with cigarettes to Mr. Big's ex-wife, Barbara, the next scene we have is Samantha is on a corner looking at flowers at one of the flower stand stores, which, by the way, are so ubiquitous to New York, and I love those stores. Those are the best ones to go to. She inadvertently bumps into a couple of crazy people, and it happens to be Ted, the man that she's married, the married man that she's sleeping with, and his wife Ruth. And as she realizes it's Ted, the wife says, oh my God, the two of you know each other? And then she says yes. And then Ted says, no, she brought some Pinot Noir because he's an alcohol salesperson or something to that effect. And none of this makes any sense because as a wife, as a woman, as a person, as a human being, you kind of know when something is off. So, she's looking at Samantha like, because Samantha's beautiful. And he's like, I'm introducing my wife, Ruth. And he goes, okay, goodbye. And they walk out away from Samantha, and the wife is looking back at Samantha and Samantha's looking at them. And Carrie's narrating that this had to be a record because Samantha successfully screwed a guy in under 2 minutes. First of all, hilarious. Great writing because there is a double entendre there, of course. Then we have Miranda and her ever insistence of being part of the My Friends Are Gonna Go Down on Me club in the sandbox. She's back at her therapist and she's telling her therapist that now she's dreaming that she had a dream that she was in a cab with the girls and the girls made her sit up in front and the driver was the original Chris from the Partridge Family. Now, I have no idea what this reference means because I never watched the Partridge Family. It was never my thing, but I'm assuming it's not a good thing if she's overanalyzing this with her analyst or her therapist. And the therapist says, it sounds to me that you still are obsessed with the fact that your friends are not picking you to have a threesome. You think? And she's like, let me ask you something. Would you have a threesome with me? And he's like, we're going to have to figure out why you're asking me this question. Translation, what's wrong with you? Really, what's wrong with you? Got it. The next thing you have is now Carrie is in bed with Mr. Big, and she's narrating that she's nibbling on his ears, and they're about to have, relations. And as she's nibbling on his ears, you hear Barbara in the bedroom, because this is what Carrie is going through with her mind, because this is what she does. She goes, nibbling on his ear. Let me show you the right way to do that. So then Carrie pulls away from Big, and she rolls over, and Big is like, hello, where'd you go? And she goes, oh, no, I was just thinking about, certain things. He's like what? Oh, my column. And, Big is not stupid. And he says, hey, the reason why I didn't tell you about my ex-wife is because, I don't like to talk about it. And she's like, so what happened? He goes, alienation of affection that led to divorce. That seems like a very clinical divorce paper way of saying somebody cheated on somebody. Like irreconcilable differences. Mm-hmm. In California. Mm-hmm. You know what that means. And she's like, oh. And he's like, can we not talk about the past? You think? Why? Because that's getting to know you, Mr. Big. And he rolls over to her, hugs her, and Carrie's narrating. He goes, well, the thing that Mr. Big doesn't realize is that there is another person in our bed. And as they pan out, Barbara is laying next to them because, again, in her mind, she can't get over the fact that, not the fact that he was not just married, but he was married and having wild sex, which is not something that they are doing anymore. They're only having sweet sex. So here goes what I say is that she goes into this tailspin all the time. Now, I'm not going to take it away from her. I would be curious too. Like, you're having threesomes with your wife? Now, let's be clear. Your ex-wife. I'm not going to take that away from her because I would be like, I would have approached it differently, 100%. But I get where she's coming from. It's a little weird. I haven't met a couple that actively have told me that they have done that and this is what's happened to them. I haven't. I've never met anybody. It doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I'm just saying. And if it was somebody that I was sleeping with, oh, honey, it's going to take a lot more than you telling me about what the hell you got into and why you got out of it in the short 2 minutes that we're able to hear anything about it. You're going to have to start sitting down and doing some talking. Lots of it. I'm sorry. But you are. FYI. And do you think it ends there? Of course not. Because Carrie is glutton for punishment. She's glutton for punishment. Next scene. We get to find out if Carrie's book, The Girl with the Magic Cigarettes, pans out. They do. Well, after I presume Carrie got out of bed with Barbara and Mr. Big, the next thing you have is that Barbara called up Carrie to have lunch, I guess, to discuss, little Kathy and her magic cigarettes. So Carrie is going into the restaurant and she says hello to Barbara and she's sitting down and Barbara's like, oh my God, you changed your hair. And I honestly didn't notice. I didn't pick up on the fact that her hair was straightened and I didn't understand what was the comment about. I guess to make it look more like Barbara, because Barbara's hair was straight. I guess that's what she was trying to say. I didn't understand, but there's a reason for that line, right? Like they wouldn't have just put it in for nothing. And, Carrie's like, oh yes, I did. I'm like, yeah, I've seen her. I guess I haven't seen her since then, but yeah, she did look different. So then Barbara says that I have some bad news for you. And of course, Carrie is narrating, you are back with Mr. Big because she's still obsessed. And she says that the publishers didn't go for her book, Little Kathy and Her Magic Cigarettes. Thank God. Could you imagine? Oh my God. And she's like, but, F them because they wouldn't know a good book if it hit them. And then, Carrie's like, yeah, F them. I'm like, what? She's good. Barbara's good because she's lying through she's pulling a story out of her ass now. Okay. And she goes, on the risk of not sounding like a groupie, I'm hoping that we could be friends. And I didn't pick up on these little nuances about her personality when she was talking to Carrie until the end, which we'll go through. And, Carrie's like, great, friends. So 2 hours later, they're still talking in the restaurant. And of course, Carrie has to get into the reason why. She goes, were you ever married? And Barbara says, yes, I was. And she's like, oh, really? What happened? Investigator secretly. And she's like, well, he had a wandering eye and he wandered right over to my best friend. And you saw Carrie's face jarred. And I was like, whoa, that's deep. I didn't expect that. And then Barbara says to her in this really strange way, are you seeing anyone? Again, I didn't understand this until after rewatching. And she goes, no, no one special. I'm like, yeah. He's special. He's a special kind of something. The next scene is the funniest part of this entire episode. We have Samantha, putting on her lipstick, getting ready to go out, God knows doing what. And then her married lover calls and he says, hey, I left my wife. And Samantha's like, who's this? Oh my God, how many people are you sleeping with that have married? And she goes, I want to say Ted, because I'm getting them confused now. And she's like, no. You can't leave your wife. He says, but I love you. No. Split screen comes up, and then guess who's on the other line? Ruth, the wife. Hi, Samantha, it's Ruth, Ted's wife. I found your number in his sock drawer. So back then, again, I am presuming we still put numbers down on paper. And I just want to let you know that I love my husband very much. And she's like, yes, I know. And, we have a special bond. And if this relationship, we have a special bond. Let's get into this for a second. Okay. We still have the split screen with Ted being on hold. And she goes, I know you do. And it was just sex. Samantha. I guess at this point, the cat's out of the bag. She goes, the wife says, yes, I know. And if it takes this in order for us to keep our relationship alive, I'm willing to join you in the bedroom. Samantha's like, no. So she hangs up on them, both of them. And you hear Carrie's narration saying, Samantha is accustomed to being the guest star, not a series regular. Hilarious, because obviously Ted didn't realize the type of woman that Samantha was. Like, she did not, because I would think that after you're sleeping with someone and you're talking about your wife in bed with them, that conventionally women who want to be with you would say, when are you going to leave your wife? When is that going to happen? And apparently, since Samantha never said any of this, I know she never did. We know she never did. He didn't know. He didn't pick up on the fact that Samantha didn't want him to leave his wife. I find that very hard to believe. I do. Now, the next thing we have is, did you think it was going to be over for Charlotte? No. God help us. As I was watching this, I was like, okay, so we're done with Charlotte Chronicles? No. Because there's a tail end to this arc. Not the way I expected it. What they doing? Charlotte and the Peacock. So the next thing you have is that they're at, her and her, threesome boyfriend are at a charity event, which appears to be at a mansion, somebody's house. And I say this specifically because this is going to come up in my question. Okay. He's asking her, out of all the people here, women, who do you find most attractive? Can you start scouring around? Because we're going to insist on playing this role of the threesome and the peacock. Okay. So Charlotte is it's a masquerade charity event. So she puts on her hand mask and she starts looking around the room and she spots this woman and she asks threesome guy, are you into peacocks? As she's looking at this woman with the peacock mask, and he goes, maybe. And Charlotte starts looking at her. The peacock starts looking at her. They both take their masks down, and then Charlotte decides to wink at her, and Peacock winks back. I'm like, uh-oh, what's Charlotte gets all excited and she goes, I have to leave. So she runs up the stairs. She falls ass backwards into someone random's bedroom. And I asked this question. Even in a mansion or in your own home, do you leave your bedroom open when you're having a party? Because there were a lot of people in this room, in this charity event. I just found it very odd that people just have their bedrooms open to let anybody in. It was not like a coat room or anything like that. So, some guy comes in after her and he's like, how do you feel? She goes, a little strange. He goes, oh, I'm so excited. I'm like, of course you are, you big ding doofus. And she's like, well, I do have another fantasy. I fantasize about doing it upstairs during a party in a random person's bed. That's your fantasy? What? So they start to sit down and to get it on. And as they're kissing, Peacock comes in and they look up and she's like, do you mind if I join you? Does this happen often? I really need to evaluate my sexual past. I've never had this happen to me. Just random people coming in, going into somebody's random bedroom, and I just have like, I'm beginning to understand how we procreated and how we have become so amassed in human beings, because this crap doesn't happen to me and none of my friends either. So in the narration of Carrie, Charlotte knew that if she was going to take the plunge, that this is her moment. This is when she's going to do the threesome in somebody else's house on a random bed during a party, because nobody else was going to come upstairs and take a look. They didn't even close the door. I don't even understand what's happening. Peacock sits next to Charlotte and threesome guy, and it's about to get it on. Let's get it on. I'm like, can someone close the door? That's all I'm thinking about, because I was full on believing that this was going to happen. All of a sudden, threesome guy starts getting it on with Peacock girl. They lean back and they start making out, and they squeeze Charlotte out of the threesome, which I believe is the whole purpose of having a threesome, right? Charlotte gets thrown onto the floor as Carrie narrates that obviously threesome guy was way too more excited than Charlotte was to have a threesome in someone's bed during a masquerade charity party. That's it. Charlotte leaves, and we never go back to Charlotte and the threesome. Obviously, this is a one-off story, one that I was scared of. But okay. Next up, Miranda. Because Miranda, no matter what anybody says, she's one of the most persistent, insistent persons that she's going to make sure that she's going to figure out why nobody wants to sleep with her in a threesome. No matter what. They do. Oh, my Miranda. The next thing you have is Miranda is going into a bar. Apparently, she answered an ad from a couple that wants to do a threesome, right? So she goes up to the couple. Very straight-laced, probably suburban family kind of couple, or maybe West Village or East Village. And they're like, oh my God, thank God. And I'm like, why? So they had been looking for a person to do this threesome. And every person that's answered the ad, which I could only presume are the people that we saw earlier. You know, the X-File and the Golden Showers and the nice teacher who no be nice. Mm-hmm. Those type of people. And everybody was ugly. So Miranda felt vindicated. She was like, and the wife, who looks so happy to be doing this, she goes, yeah, so my husband has been dreaming about this, so I decided to give this to him for his 30th birthday. So, you know, Miranda's like, okay. And I'm thinking, there's no way around this. I would not know if my husband, first of all, let's start out with, he would not be my husband anymore. So her giving the gift of a threesome to her husband, do you think that's a one-off thing, girl? Run. Fast. Because that's not going to work. And so Miranda's whole thing is like, listen, I just want to be clear. You two want to do a threesome with me. Because the husband is saying, listen, can we do it tonight? My God, hold your horses, all of them. And she said, but if you're busy tonight, that's understandable. And, they validate that they do want to do it with her because she's attractive. And that was the whole purpose of Miranda, to make sure that somebody in the world, doesn't matter who, not the ugly people, but attractive people, little scary, little concerning. That's a whole other marriage counseling situation that they need to deal with. Maybe she should give them the card of her therapist, but we won't go there. That she's attractive enough to warrant somebody other than her friends who don't want to play with her in the sandbox is going to have a threesome with her. Great. She goes, okay, I'm going to the ladies' room. I'll be right back. She doesn't. She walks out of the bar and she feels completely satisfied that somebody loves me, somebody wants me. This is insane. This is how far she has gone. To feel pretty. I feel pretty. Oh, so pretty, and gay. Okay. Next up, we get the tail end of the Barbara and the big marriage threesome thingy, whoozy wazzy. They do. Mr. Big, Carrie, Barbara, and magic cigarettes. Let's put it that way. So the next scene we have is Big and Carrie are walking down, I guess, the street of where her townhouse or brownstone is. And she narrates that she hasn't seen Big in 8 days. What he's done in those 8 days, well, you can leave it up to your imagination. I can only imagine. So he's sarcastically saying that, hey, that was a great movie and a great restaurant. And she's like, uh-huh. And he's like, no, the food was terrible. And where we were only speaking to each other as if we were strangers. What the hell is going on? Obviously, she's still distracted. And she's like, listen, you drop a bomb on me that you were married and that you had a threesome. Okay. But then you don't tell me anything else. And, what happened? And Big is like, well, I cheated on her. And Carrie's like, yeah, I know. She told me. And he goes, yeah, I know. She told me she told you. And I'm like, what? So that explains the strange way Barbara was speaking to her in the restaurant. Like, I know that you're fishing. I know that you're looking. It was just a very awkward situation. I'm like, that makes sense. And Carrie's like, what? See, you don't even tell me that you still speak to your ex-wife. And he's like, I speak to all my ex-wives, which could be true because we still don't know who Big is. She goes, I don't find that funny. He goes, listen, the reason why we had a threesome is because we were both looking for someone else. I'm going to need a textbook understanding of what threesomes are. But sure, I'll go with that. Then he's like, he coyly walks up to her. He goes, I need to know if I can find someone. Is you that someone? Something stupid like that. And I'm like, no. This is why she goes crazy. Because he plays this game with her. Suddenly he's hugging her and kissing her. And then she narrates, as the camera pans out, you see Barbara, her fantasy, imagination Barbara. And she goes, that's the thing with threesomes. It could be something that's a bitch. It's intimacy. It's intimacy that's a bitch. That's it. So threesomes are dead. Intimacy is the real bitch. He wants to know if she's that someone. And then we have 6 years of hell. Just from these little tidbits of scenes. And Barbara starts to walk away. So that's one problem with Mr. Big that I guess is dead. But you know what comes up? 50 million more problems. Because every single scene with this guy is an issue. An issue. that she has to, it's like a balloon popping game from like one of those fairs. Like you keep shooting at a balloon and see which one's going to hit that you're going to be able to pop. Because you think that this would, but of course not, because how could this show survive if it wasn't the rest of the drama that happened? And oh my God. Oh my God. Next up, my epilogue. Because I'm so confused. I do. Well, epilogue. I have to say that watching this with your friends was it was an experience. We were all on the same page. None of us wants to play with each other's sandboxes, metaphors. You figured out. I thought the scene with Samantha, in overall how she reacted to the husband wanting to leave the wife, was hilarious. But I still stand on my laurels. I don't think she should be sleeping with married men because there's so many other men out there. Okay, so I kind of like tugged and pulled on enjoying that part, but it was good how they wrapped it up. Miranda, oh my God, Miranda, I don't know what to make of it, because if we had not seen what happened in Just Like That, this would probably be different or taken differently. But no, I took it the way I took it because I knew what was happening in Just Like That. I'm like, that explains a lot. But I the whole scene with the different people who answering the Village Voice ad probably was the best part of the entire episode, because it really just, it brings in the funny aspects. It's like what I keep saying. They had a way of pushing and pulling these crazy narratives that maybe we do have conversations amongst other people, not through my friends, but it's great how they take serious subjects and they make them interesting from different points of view and even to the point of funny. And that is, again, something that when you have when you have great writers, you have a great showrunner, you have a vision, you have a basic understanding of what's funny and what's not. You have a great team of actors who know how to deliver and make you get sucked into that writing, because it also takes that as well, right? Because big problem of Just Like That, it was not just the writing. That was a huge part of the problem, okay? It was the delivery of each of the actors, which was horrendous. You never felt that it was genuine, it was emotional, it was real. It was like they were all just reading off a damn really bad script, and they were like, okay, I'm here to get paid, so what's going on? There was no sincerity in Charlotte. I don't know who the hell she was in this, and Just Like That. Miranda, again, I go back to, yeah, women do flip, and men too, but they handle it so poorly that it was just horrendous, to even watch. There was no sincerity in that either. It was just like, okay, she's gay now. Okay, boom, that's it. Carrie, I think she was phoning it in from day one. I think the most emotional part was her watching Big die in her arms. That's the only part that I believe was true. None of it, the rest of it was bullshit. Even at this funeral, it pissed me off. There was no comfort in seeing these women evolve. And we see them now, the templates. Let's get into Charlotte. I honestly don't get what the hell was this about. And I go back to, I think that because Charlotte was never going to be a real long time player in the show, that they were throwing darts to figure out what could stick. Because if you really look at her aesthetics after everything that we're going to go through, she still falls in love with everybody. She's always engaged. But the whole sexual adventures, between not wanting to do XYZ, all of a sudden jumping into bed in a threesome, was not in characteristic of Charlotte. And they've already kind of established that in the first couple of episodes. To throw this into the wrench with no details or explanation, that was a little creepy to me. Because I think that when you are getting yourself involved in a threesome, again, whether it's boy-boy, boy-girl, whatever the kind of threesome you're talking about, you kind of need to really flow through that. It's a big move. Maybe not for many people, but the first time, I think that they should be thinking about it. So this is episode 8. We have 4 more to go. It does get more intense. I'm excited to bring it to you. Tell me overall, number 1, how you felt about this. Number 2, I've been dying to ask this question to many of you. Now, I watch a lot of TV shows. And right now I'm watching on Prime America, The Story of Us. It goes through, when the Pilgrims landed and the Civil War and all that. I like that kind of stuff. Um, I am getting annoyed with YouTube as a content watcher because there's something funky going on with the way that they're shoving different kind of creators, and I'm not really getting into it as much as I was before. YouTube used to be a fun place to like discover things, and I maybe it's just me and my homepage, but there's something not right. And I'm not even talking from the content creator side, which is me doing this. I'm talking about from the content watching side. Has anybody noticed something different in your YouTube algorithm, homepage, feed, subscriptions? Because it's really changed a lot. And I'm just curious to see what other creators are you into? Are you noticing a difference? Because I'm still going to do my content creation because I love the community that I'm building, but I really want to step away from how it's being delivered to so many other people. And I'm hoping that this channel really kicks off and resonates with a lot more people. And we can grow, like I said, as a community, but I'm very happy with the people that I have here now. I would hope that a lot of my other subs that I have start picking up the videos and start joining in. And, we are going to talk about other things. Like I said, my time is limited, so I do apologize. And I'm pumping out these videos because we have a long time. But I have a lot of other creative things that I want to do that I think is going to really resonate with all of us. But that's going to have to happen at least probably in the new year. I can't do that right now because, as you guys know, between my back issue, which is, by the way, gotten much better. I'll explain in another video what happened and what's happening. Moving, last quarter of the year, job transition, and pumping out these videos for you that I am thoroughly enjoying. I'm thoroughly enjoying because this has revived the new inspiration for me on Sex and the City. And I think it's important that we do revisit this because there is context in there that as a group, we can analyze. And I love it. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying this. So hopefully I can get this video out. I am recording Sunday. I did increase my internet speed, which I'm able to upload a lot faster. Hopefully I can edit a lot faster. Cross your fingers, because if that's the case, I can get it out tonight. If not, it will be up Monday. So I hope you had a great weekend. And listen, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed day, blessed week. Just blessings all around. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye. Mwah.